Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, so you never miss a play. It's been another long, heavy week for Washington Commanders fans. And the atmosphere around the franchise feels like a pressure cooker, waiting for that next seismic offseason move. Sitting at 3-8 after the frustrating loss to the Miami Dolphins, the team heads into the bye week with more questions than answers. And even though 6 games are still on the slate, everybody already knows where this story is headed. The conversation isn't about the stretch run, it's about the future, more specifically, about an off-season that could define the legacy of General Manager Adam Peters, before he even reaches the midpoint of his tenure. And when fans look at what's coming, when they consider the holes, the expiring contracts, the aging defense, and the desperate need for an injection of youth, one name keeps popping up in draft projections: Ohio State star safety Caleb Downs. The ripple effect of that possibility stretches far beyond one shiny draft pick. It puts players like Quan Martin, once projected as an ascending breakout candidate, squarely under the spotlight, and not in a good way. What makes this whole storyline so fascinating is the sheer scale of what Peters has to manage. The Commanders are expected to have close to $100 million in salary cap space once the dust settles. And that kind of financial freedom doesn't come around often in the NFL, but with that flexibility comes responsibility. Washington has a long list of veteran starters set to hit free agency, and it's not just depth guys. We're talking about core contributors, players who've been asked to shoulder the load in a season where the defense has been exposed again and again. To rebuild properly, Peters needs to spend wisely, hit on the draft, and somehow turn a hollowed-out roster into something competitive within the next year or two. Add to that the uncomfortable reality that he has only 6 picks in the 2026 NFL Draft, after choosing to hold firm at the trade deadline. And suddenly the margin for error shrinks dramatically. That's why the Commanders' projected top 10 pick becomes so valuable. Sitting at 7th overall through Week 11, Washington finds itself in that rare territory where they could grab a true blue-chip prospect, or trade back for a haul of picks to fill multiple needs. It's a philosophical crossroads for Peters, and every Commanders fan has their own opinion on what path he should take. On one hand, this team needs volume, more bodies, more depth, more guys who can come in and compete. On the other hand, when you're building around young cornerstones and trying to reset a defensive identity that's been in shambles for years, sometimes you just have to plant your flag on the best player available and let the rest work itself out. And according to Cody Williams from Fansided, that player just might be Caleb Downs. Now, when a respected analyst like Williams throws a safety into top 10 conversation, people notice, because that's not typically where the position gets drafted in today's NFL economy. Safeties, unless they're generational, rarely crack that elite tier, and that's where the debate becomes spicy. But Williams isn't talking about just any safety. He's talking about a tone setter, someone whose instincts, athleticism, explosiveness, and versatility could immediately flip the switch on a defense that has lacked juice all season. The Commanders' secondary has been a sore spot year after year, and the aging unit looks more like a nostalgic tribute band than a modern NFL defense. Downs isn't just a safety. He's the type of player who can line up in multiple roles, help disguise coverages, step into the box when needed, play deep halves, erase tight ends, and most importantly, bring an identity to a defense that has been starving for one. That's why Williams' mock draft hits a nerve. Fans hear the phrase instant spark, and they start dreaming about that one defender who can finally change the tone of a defense that's been bleeding big plays since training camp. And when Williams talks about how Downs' versatility could do wonders for Washington's secondary, he's saying what people inside and outside the organization have been thinking for months. The status quo is not cutting it when your back end looks confused, overwhelmed, mismatched, and out of sync as consistently as Washington's has this season. Something bigger than a Band-Aid fix is required. But here's where the storyline takes a harder turn, because if the Commanders do pull the trigger on Downs, it doesn't just improve the defense. It changes careers, it changes contracts. And for Quan Martin, it changes his timeline dramatically. Remember when fans were convinced 2024 was going to be his breakout year? Remember when his athleticism, his versatility, and his ability to play nickel or safety had analysts hyping him as the next unsung hero of the defense? Well, that breakout never arrived. Instead of ascending, Martin has spent the season stuck somewhere between still developing and not quite enough, and that's not where you want to be when the franchise is about to reset its entire defensive identity. The Commanders have cycled through options at safety this year, and none of them have looked like consistent long-term solutions. Jeremy Reeves is a heart and soul special teamer, but nobody views him as the future of the secondary. Percy Butler has flashed straight-line speed, but hasn't shown the reliability needed for a starting role. Tyler Owens, despite his athletic upside, has looked more like a developmental project than an immediate contributor. Will Harris is serviceable and should be back, but he's not the kind of presence that prevents you from drafting a top 10 defensive back. So when you look at that group, you can see why a player like Downs becomes so enticing and why someone like Martin suddenly feels vulnerable. That's the brutal reality of the NFL. Developmental timelines don't wait for you to figure it all out. The league moves fast. Front offices move faster. And when a team has the chance to elevate an entire position group with one draft pick, the clock on anyone underperforming starts ticking loudly. Martin is entering the final year of his rookie contract next season. That is supposed to be the year players lock in their future value. The year they push the front office into either paying them or losing them. But if Washington drafts Downs, that entire dynamic shifts. Suddenly Martin becomes situational depth rather than an ascending starter. Suddenly his snaps shrink. Suddenly his leverage disappears. And when you're a former second-round pick trying to prove your worth, that is not the position you want to be in. But here's the bigger truth that fans understand even if it stings. The Commanders can't afford to be sentimental right now. This roster needs real talent. Game-changing talent, and Peters cannot skip on an elite prospect just to protect a player's development arc. If Downs is on the board at 7 and he is the highest-graded defensive player available, Washington has to think long and hard before passing on him. Yes, the team has glaring needs elsewhere. Yes, they need pass rushers, linebackers, offensive line help, and depth at multiple positions. But you do not fix a defense that's been leaking oil for years by ignoring elite defensive prospects. If anything, drafting Downs could be the first domino in a full-scale identity rebuild on that side of the ball. It sends a message to the locker room, to the fan base, and to the rest of the league that Washington is done patching holes and is ready to build something with staying power. And while that's exciting for fans who want immediate improvement, it creates undeniable pressure for guys like Martin, because if the Commanders invest in a star at his position, the writing on the wall becomes significantly clearer. For now, all eyes are on Peters. He's the architect tasked with reimagining a defense that has fallen far behind the modern NFL curve, and while nobody knows which direction he'll go with that top 10 pick, we do know this: if Caleb Downs becomes a Commander, the entire complexion of the secondary changes overnight. And when that happens, players like Quan Martin won't just be fighting for snaps. They'll be fighting for their future in Washington. With the chopping block looming larger than ever, if you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. The NFL world is buzzing, and it seems like the Washington Commanders are at the center of the storm. Rumors have been circulating all week, whispers in locker rooms, speculative chatter on sports networks, and insiders dropping hints that could change the landscape of the team's offense. And now, it looks like those whispers might be more than just idle talk. According to multiple sources close to the team, head coach Dan Quinn has reportedly been caught on camera, caught up in what some are calling an electrifying moment, saying that Tyreek Hill, yes, the Tyreek Hill is transforming their attack. Quinn allegedly described the shift in the most emphatic terms, calling it, and I quote, another Commander's experience, signaling a seismic shift in the team's identity and offensive potential. If that's true, it's more than just a player addition. It's a philosophy, a reimagining of how Washington plans to dominate the field. You can almost picture it. Dan Quinn pacing on the sidelines, animated and electric, talking strategy, pointing to the schematics, running through hypothetical plays with his coaching staff, as if Tyreek's presence has opened up a whole new universe of possibilities. The excitement seems almost contagious. Teammates, from the offensive line to the wide receivers, are reportedly feeding off this energy, talking about a level of speed, precision, and unpredictability that they haven't experienced before. Imagine the chemistry, the link-up potential in the passing game when you're talking about someone like Hill, known for breaking defenses in seconds. for creating separation in ways that seem almost unfair, and Dan Quinn, a coach known for his defensive mind and meticulous preparation, seems invigorated by this challenge. Sources suggest he's spent countless hours poring over tape, analyzing Hill's routes, his acceleration patterns, how he manipulates defenders, and translating that into plays that could completely reshape the offensive scheme. Insiders are even hinting at a subtle shift in practice intensity, almost like the entire offense is learning a new dialect of football, a language that Tyreek speaks fluently and everyone else is trying to catch up with. It's the kind of story that makes sports pundits' heads spin because it's less about one game or one stat line and more about the potential long-term evolution of a franchise. People are saying that when Tyreek hits the field in these sessions, defenders are scrambling in ways they haven't before, and the coaching staff is openly marveling at the possibilities. The whispers don't stop at the field either. Some insiders are hinting that the offensive staff has been brainstorming play designs that are almost cinematic in their scope, plays that involve misdirection, lightning speed motion, and creative spacing that leverages Hill's unmatched speed and football IQ. There are even murmurs of special packages designed specifically to exploit defensive weaknesses. With Tyreek as the centerpiece, it's not just a rumor. It's a narrative building up around the idea that Quinn sees Hill not just as a player, but as a catalyst for a transformation, someone who can inject unpredictability, fire, and a new sense of identity into the Commanders. It's the kind of buzz that can dominate sports talk for weeks because it's tantalizing, almost cinematic in its implication. What happens when one of the fastest, most dynamic receivers in the league steps into a system hungry for speed and innovation? The speculation is electric, and the social media chatter is palpable, with fans already imagining highlight reels of jaw-dropping catches, defenders left in the dust, and an offense that feels revitalized, re-energized, and ready to attack in ways that opponents may not be able to anticipate. There's also this element of intrigue surrounding the locker room dynamics. People close to the team are whispering about how Hill's work ethic, his approach to training, and his presence on and off the field are already making waves among teammates. Some are saying that his arrival has sparked a competitive fire in other players, a desire to elevate their own game to match his intensity. Dan Quinn, who is known for balancing discipline with player empowerment, reportedly sees this as an opportunity to foster a new culture, a kind of offensive renaissance built around speed, agility, and precision execution. The rumor mill is alive with speculation about whether this could be the turning point for the franchise, a moment where everything shifts. And suddenly the Commanders are no longer just a team with potential. They're a team with a renewed sense of identity, driven by the kind of game-changing talent that demands attention. Imagine a sideline conversation between Quinn and his coordinators, animated hand gestures illustrating routes, defensive coverages, and timing windows, all with the implication that Tyreek's unique skill set allows them to run plays that previously would have been considered too risky or unconventional. The media is, of course, having a field day. Analysts are dissecting every word, every possible implication of Quinn's comments, trying to read between the lines. Some are suggesting that this marks the beginning of a shift toward a more vertical, aggressive offensive philosophy, one that relies less on methodical drives and more on explosive plays that can swing momentum in an instant. Others are speculating about the broader strategic implications. How will opposing defenses adapt? Will the NFC East suddenly be forced to rethink its defensive approach? Will quarterbacks in the division spend nights analyzing tape of Hill running with the Commanders, trying to anticipate moves that may never be predictable? The rumor mill is spinning, with each analyst offering increasingly bold predictions. And yet the story remains tantalizingly incomplete because nothing official has been confirmed. That ambiguity is part of what makes it so compelling, the sense that something big is happening, but the full picture is still being drawn. Meanwhile, fans are pouring into social media, reacting to every snippet of information, to every cryptic quote from Quinn. Memes are circulating. Highlight clips of Hill from previous seasons are being reposted with captions imagining him in Commanders colors, and forums are alight with speculation about which plays might be unleashed and how the team will redefine its identity on the field. Even casual observers are catching wind of it, sensing that this could be more than just another player acquisition. It could be the start of something transformative. Rumors suggest that the front office is quietly adjusting logistics, from training schedules to playbook revisions, to maximize Hill's integration into the offense. The undercurrent in all this chatter is that Quinn sees an unprecedented opportunity to not just win games, but to redefine what it means to be a Commanders offense in the modern NFL era. The word revolutionary has even been tossed around, and while insiders caution against hyperbole, there's a sense of anticipation that is hard to ignore, and then there's the human element. The story behind the story. Dan Quinn, a coach who has always emphasized team cohesion and adaptability, is reportedly thrilled, not just about Hill's physical abilities, but about the ripple effect his presence could have on team morale, culture, and identity. There are anecdotes circulating about private conversations between Quinn and veteran players, discussions that are reportedly infused with excitement and hope. Conversations where Hill's arrival is framed as a chance to rewrite the narrative of the franchise. The rumor mill hints at strategy sessions that run late into the night, animated debates about formations, motion schemes, and timing routes, all underscored by the belief that with Hill, they have a weapon capable of breaking conventional defensive thinking. This isn't just speculation about a player joining a team, it's speculation about a seismic cultural and tactical shift that could ripple across the league. A before and after moment for the Commanders. Some insiders are even suggesting that Quinn's comments about Tyreek changing the offense today and making it another Commanders may be a subtle signal to opponents, a psychological tactic designed to instill doubt and uncertainty before anyone even sets foot on the field. The idea that a single player could alter an entire team's identity overnight is the stuff of legends and NFL folklore, and while it's still rumor, the consistency of the chatter, the alignment of multiple independent sources, and the passion with which those inside the organization are reportedly reacting lend it a kind of plausibility that is hard to dismiss. Fans are clinging to these rumors like lifelines, imagining a season full of jaw-dropping plays, a quarterback who suddenly has endless options, and a team that feels unpredictable, fast, and lethal in ways they haven't in years. There's an undercurrent of anticipation, a sense that something explosive is brewing, and that anyone paying attention is on the verge of witnessing a transformation that could define a franchise's next era. It's the kind of story that sports media loves because it combines superstar talent, strategic genius, and the tantalizing possibility of a reinvention that could echo for seasons to come. In essence, the Commanders, under Quinn's guidance and with Hill's potential rival shaking up the offense, might be on the cusp of a chapter that fans and analysts alike will be dissecting for years, one electrifying play at a time. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.